She was 25 months. She had had her 2-year well check 3 weeks before she was diagnosed, so I was really caught off guard when I got the news that she in fact had leukemia. When I noticed that she wasn't feeling well, she was tired, she was grumpy, and I always took my girls to the park, and she didn't want to go, and she didn't want to go on a picnic, and so I thought she just might be teething. And so I told her, okay, I'll take you to the doctor. Maybe, Dr. Bender can look at your teeth and see that you're okay. Or I thought maybe she had an ear infection. So I took her to the doctor thinking that it was just going to be a quick trip there. And they didn't let me go. When we had Kara checked over, I did say that her tummy seemed a little distended and her heart rate seemed fast to me, but again, I didn't think anything of it. I mean, now I think what an idiot I was to think that my daughter just had an ear infection and here she had leukemia.
Acute lymphocytic leukemia is a cancer of the lymphocytes, a type of white blood cell. Because too many lymphocytes grow, they crowd out bone marrow, so it can't make normal red blood cells, white blood cells, or platelets.
It's a condition where the white blood cells are mutated or whatever, so they expand rapidly and you get way too many white blood cells, and that prevents the blood cells from maturing and squeezes out the red blood cells. It affects the ability of the blood to do what it's supposed to do in the body.
So the doctor was concerned. It was the partner on duty, not our regular doctor. And so she had me immediately go down the hallway for blood work. And when they got it back, they saw that there were some big problems. One of the things that happened was that the tech was having a great deal of difficulty even drawing the blood, and it turned out that her, it was very impacted because she was sick. So it was a really horrible experience because they were digging in her arm and they couldn't get the blood out. So they finally got enough to get the blood tested. So they got the blood drawn and they said Dr. Henderson had some concerns that I needed to have, Kara's dad come in. So I thought, oh gosh, we were just going to stop there for a little bit. So I asked if I could go out to the car and get a little bag of emergency Cheerios because I had, two little ones and I didn't know how long it was going to be.
Well, I was working and I got a call from Mom. She had talked about taking Kara to the doctor, and so I knew she was taking her. It didn't seem like it was that big a deal to me. But when she called me at work and said that the doctor wanted to talk to us about Kara and they wanted me to go down there, I knew it had to be something pretty serious. So obviously I got out of work as quickly as I could and got down to the doctor's office and went into the observation room there, and she told us that Kara had leukemia. It was shocking, really shocking to find out that your child has cancer. We did not know a lot about all the different type of cancers, so we didn't know exactly what we were getting into, and we thought we were perfectly fine. And from that, to find out your child has cancer is just shakes your world upside down.
We were just a few minutes from the doctor's office, but we weren't allowed to go home. And the doctor wanted to know if we had somebody who could take care of Ryan. And I said, no, we don't have anybody to take care of Ryan. We're new to living in Indianapolis. And so by this time, our doctor had come in as well. So the two doctors were there. Our doctor wound up taking Ryan home, which was just odd. I mean, I go to the doctor's office with two girls, and I'm leaving with one, and I'm leaving the other one with the doctor who is just our doctor, not like a family friend. And so on our way to the hospital, my biggest concern was making sure that Ryan had stability and everything was in place for her. Went off to the hospital across town with Kara, where she was in there for 6 days. We lived by looking at numbers. There was something in ANC count and white blood cells and things like that. So we were always checking numbers, writing them down, and we knew that if a certain number was at a certain level, that meant a blood transfusion. She had spinal taps very regularly, The first day that she was in the hospital, she had a port put in, so her medications were given through the port.
We started off at one hospital, and about 2 weeks into the process, we had a situation where she was given one of her chemo drugs that was supposed to be injected into the blood system, but they gave her a shot into the muscle, into the leg. So that was our first big issue, and actually it started, it resulted in muscle damage and gave her an indentation she still has on her leg today. And so that was a big deal to us. And people, you know, everybody's human, so you're susceptible to human errors. But that was a big one for us. And then we had a couple of other instances. One where not too long after that, where we had a prescription that was called in at the wrong dosage, and we had another issue where they were, you know, where her records weren't kept up, so we ended up moving her out of that hospital into another one.
So we never got a real reason why it happened, and the doctors and nurses wanted to make sure that we as parents didn't feel guilty of anything or in any way responsible for it. But I really feel it was when I was just barely pregnant, maybe 2 weeks along. I was a teacher, and at the school where I worked was putting in new carpet in the classrooms. Well, their schedule got off, so they put it in right at the beginning of the teacher work days, and I know my classroom smelled like just really strong glue smell. And so after some reading, it sounds like the chemicals in glue that they use to glue down carpet can be very toxic. And being that I was just early on in my pregnancy with Kara, I have to think that that's perhaps what caused it.
When she's on the chemo medication, she's got no immune system, so she cannot fight off, the normal cooties that are passed around between kids and things like that. So she, we wanted to keep her isolated from the chance of getting infection spread among kids and people like that. So we, limited her ability to play with other kids. And she played with Ryan primarily, and she was around, older people, adults, and things like that.
My only friend was Ryan, so I got really close to Ryan, but I don't think I really had any other friends. That probably reflects on now. I'm kind of an introvert, but that's okay.
We made sure that everybody washed their hands a ton. Everything got wiped down a ton, disinfected, just to try to keep cooties from being around that she could not fight off. It affected Ryan because that meant Ryan couldn't have friends over us, very often. So she could still go play with friends, their house outside, but she, that affected, the people that we brought into the house, including Ryan's friends. So it made the girls very close growing up.
I was cured August 24th, 2004. We had 3 different celebrations. There was the flushing the pills down the toilet party with just our immediate family, and then we also had a little dinner at Mayberry Cafe, our favorite restaurant in Indiana, with the friends and family that we had there and some nurses from the hospital. And we also went to Tucson, where most of our family lived, and had a celebration at this little local theater and restaurant. The nurses were very memorable to me. They were very personable. They did everything they could to make it the least terrible as they could.
Be a survivor family, probably the most important part of that is to become a survivor family. As we researched the leukemia, the ALL, we found out that Kara had it, and after talking to doctors, found out she had about an 80 she'll have a higher possibility of getting leukemia or other type cancers in the future than somebody that has never had anything. So the chemo, 2.5 years of chemo on a 2-year-old is pretty intensive, and that affects her organs. So she'll always have to go through checkups and just make sure everything is okay as a result of everything she's gone through. But overall, that's a very small part of our life. Our normal family, we moved on, and other than our annual checkups or occasional conversation, it's really behind us. Tell me when the Academy Awards are.